Part 1. We start with Seraphine in Entresol. And this is the area between Piltover and Zahn. If you're in Georgia, it's Chattanooga. It's, it's before you get to Nashville, you go to Chattanooga, and there's shit going down. It's like Chat's a place to hang out, right? Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 119. I'm your host, Ryan, here with your other host, Hedge.
And have we got a beautiful song laid out for you today? All right.
Yeah, we're just going to sing for 15 minutes. It's just karaoke night.
Unbreak my heart. Say you love me again.
Today we're talking about the following story. So we did Seraphine's bio. So obviously you knew a story was coming next. And we're going to do standing room only. And this is a shorter one that's very focused on the event of right after the bio. So if you've listened to that episode, then good for you because we're just picking up right there.
Yeah, it'd be great. If you haven't listened to that episode, courtesy, like 2-second pause for you to pause this and go listen to it. All right, that's done. All right, now we go to housekeeping. All right, this is your official last chance.
So housekeeping up top, you can listen to us everywhere. Visit us at Podcast Core. Remember, that's cor.com for all of our info. And now on that info is our Threads account. So if you haven't been paying attention, we're going to date ourselves, obviously, this episode. But Zuckbot himself has released his Twitter competitor, Threads. So far, it's fine. It feels like old school bare bones Twitter. But we went ahead and created an account there as well, since Twitter has been an absolute shit show. So if you do have Threads, go ahead and follow us on that. Same name, Podcast Core, you can find us.
Yeah, and we would really love for you to be there because, as we've dated ourselves so much, we did have to put on our glasses and type in all the information, like with the just one finger on each hand, pecking the keys at a time. It took a lot of work to get it in there, so we'd love for you to follow us.
Yeah. Trust me, it feels different. If you go on Threads, you'll immediately notice the difference.
It's very different.
Yeah, how bloated it's not. It just feels like, oh, okay, I'm following people, I see their stuff, and that's it. All right, cool. Seems simple enough to me.
What a concept.
What a concept. So the rest of the housekeeping, email us if you want to get in contact. Some people have at podcastcore@gmail.com. We appreciate want to hear from you. Follow us on all the platforms because that helps us with discoverability, so we appreciate that as well. Leave a like and follow, comment, because we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think. But as always, word of mouth has gotten us to this point, 100 episodes in. So tell a friend to blur the lines that divide by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
Yes, come down to the Interasol and visit us. Or, you know what? We'll just take you there. Let's talk about a story that happened there.
Yeah, so once again, this picks up right after the bio. Story best told in 3 parts, as we like to do. So part 1. We start with Seraphine in Entresol. And this is the area between Piltover and Zahn. If you're in Georgia, it's Chattanooga. It's before you get to Nashville, you go to Chattanooga, and there's shit going down. It's like Chat's a place to hang out, right? So,
God, anyone who's not from the Southeast is not going to find that nearly as funny. And then everyone from the Southeast is going to be cackling because it's been 20 years of just hearing about how big Chattanooga is growing. It's like, no, there's a lot of exciting stuff happening there. And that's the Entresol. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you know, where we left off, she's there on her resonance stage, we'll call it that, preparing to perform. And she's watching the fans pour into the venue, getting ready for her performance. And she can kind of already feel, remember her powers, she can feel the energy's off, right? Between the Piltovians and the Zahnites.
Yeah. And this is if you haven't listened to the bio, this might not fully make sense to you. So I'll kind of break it down a little bit. But we did cover this in the bio, is that Seraphine can hear music that is basically the resonance of other people's hearts and souls, essentially their spirit, right? and she had struggled a lot as far as just with this endless berating sound just coming at her, and then she was able to like kind of tone it out a little bit with the hex tech that her parents gave her, and then now has converted that more to try to amplify her own music out there to try to unite people. Now, as far as this setting up for this show, the fact that this is in the middle point, the Chattanooga jokes aside, this is going to be like the biggest gathering that the two cities are going to have in this day, right? So the whole start of this is that, you know, Seraphine, even though she's on a stage that like her parents had converted for her to use as a stage, using the hex crystal that was originally dampening the sound, that she, even though she's using that right now to kind of seclude herself and get ready for the show, this is still a lot of people, right? And this whole first bit, we're going to really try to, like, we're really reading through how Seraphine is kind of going through her nerves. And anyone who gets in front of a crowd, no matter how many times you do it, you're going to feel those nerves. And for Seraphine, we already know that she was kind of a recluse before she hit this point. So this is going to be kind of heavy for her in the beginning.
Yeah. And immediately we get this feeling from her, which is something that's not really conveyed in her bio. But now that we're into her career of doing multiple performances, both in Zon and in Piltover, she's frustrated. She's frustrated at this constant situation of this division line. The feelings of both groups being so divided, although they both love her music and they should be coming together over her music. Not only can she feel this physical division, but she can see it in the crowd. She's looking out in the crowd, and there's a dividing line directly down the middle of Zonites on one side, Piltovers on the other, and they're just waiting to hear her tunes. And this kind of puts a damper on the hope of her mission, because we've mentioned before, her mission is very realistic about her place in all of this and her influence, and she wants to activate that in a positive way, but she keeps hitting this roadblock, and this kind of puts a damper on her mood, which is going to affect not only her music, but her magical abilities that help to infuse her feelings and her music into the people as she sings.
Yeah, and as far as like the divide, like that totally makes sense, because if you've ever been to a concert before, you already know that it's like, even if you have like a bit of social anxiety because it is jam packed, you're all like put in, like crowded into like a bar for a lot of shows. Like it may be like a big amphitheater, but even if it's something big like that, you're still all on top of each other. So that actually have like that physical representation of a big divide is kind of crazy. But we've spent a lot of episodes building up like the story of Piltover and Zon as two cities interacting with each other. It's very rarely a good thing that happens. And the show Arcane really spells out like the history of how it got there too. Well, not the whole history, but, you know, it gives us a look into it. So knowing that, it's like, yeah, like I get her frustration, but at the same time, though, these are big scars to heal. Yeah. And maybe if she was a metal artist, the divide would actually look pretty cool, because then it's like, all right, spread it out. Wall of death. Let's go. but no, we're not getting a wall of death at this one. Not only are we not going to get it, we probably wouldn't want it, because Zon and Piltover already don't get along.
Yeah.
We don't need to give them an excuse.
But like a true artist, the show must go on. So she begins to sing. And when she's singing, she's starting to lock eyes with certain people in the crowd, as well as locking on their feelings. And she notices a Piltovian woman. And through her feelings, she can start to understand her struggles that she's trying to escape from coming to this concert. This woman's name is Scala, and she's specifically having issues with getting her thesis published. And that's something she's been working hard on. And then afterwards, she kind of senses another feeling floating around. And this is of a Zonite man who's a silversmith named Roland, who doesn't really know if his next creation will sell well enough for him to keep his shop. But despite this, she knows that he's the type of person that fosters his community, and especially the talents of kids in his community. So the small space he already has, he divides up to allow them to like practice instruments and things like that. And through these two, she's able to start to merge those feelings into the music, and is starting to bring back a bit of hope as she understands why this divide keeps happening at all of her concerts.
And I do really enjoy like these two passages because it gives us like more of an insight into what Seraphine's abilities are like than anything else that we've covered to this point. Because the whole idea as far as like these two people that she knows, like that's already something that anyone can relate with, because it's essentially just being neighborly, right? Like Seraphine took the time to get to know both of these people, and she's able, it's like, okay, like in a big crowd, if you've ever done like public speaking or anything, even if it's not a big crowd, you usually just try to, like, if you're not just staring at an exit sign, you're usually just kind of looking at like maybe like your parents or your friends, like someone to kind of keep you grounded. And so like that's already what Seraphine's doing here, but after she is able to lock in on them, she's able to actually hear the songs that they're putting forth. And then she's able to kind of ride it like a wave and put it into her music. And I do enjoy like right before this, like before she's focused on these two characters, that she's, you know, listening to all of like the two crowds in the divide, and how she's describing like the music together, where it's like Zahn is kind of gravelly and heavy drum, while Piltover has the trumpets and wind instruments. And it's like, oh, cool. So we learn a lot about Seraphine here because she's not a K-pop artist. She's a ska artist. This is a ska show. But despite it being a ska show, she still has to focus on like two instruments. And these are the two characters that she's focused on, and she's riding that wave out.
Yeah, exactly. So this then takes us to the end of this part 2, this middle section, which is, you know, she's hoping that her taking those feelings of these two specific people, manipulating that in her magic per se, and then pushing that back out will create this bouncing effect, right? And it does, because after she opens her eyes, after she's begun this song, she looks out into the crowd, right? And she sees that they're no longer divided. Over the course of the song, they have slowly merged together, right? And both sides have converged and have created, like Hetch mentioned, their own song and chorus that's coming back to her, which is infused with their appreciation for her music. So she did it, right? And this is something that happens consistently, because what she wants is that she starts a concert and this is already the beginning result, right? Instead of having to go through this loop, but she's appreciative of where her music is able to take the message, and the end result is always this. Because if she was to perform and it was still divided at the end, now we see a regression, right? And that's not what we want. And I say we, like we're all in this together.
Hey.
High School Musical style.
Yeah. So he jumped the gun, but we might as well hop to the end here, which is that we are now Seraphine's managers. We did it. And hopefully it's not going to affect like the recording of the show while we go on tour with Seraphine. But, you know, like we're excited for this opportunity. Yeah. And if we put it on the podcast, Riot has to make it true, right?
That's how it works, right?
but yeah, like and I totally get like you know, that frustration of feeling like, okay, why do I have to go through all this work if this is how it always ends up? Yeah. It's like, why can't we just be here? But that's just not how life is. But it is like the insight that we enjoy here the most is getting to see Seraphine's perspective of this process. Because otherwise, you know, for everyone else, you know, they're just showing up, looking at a stage, and then it lights up, Seraphine's there, and then they start singing. Like for them, it's just a concert. But for Seraphine, it's so much more than that.
Yeah. And this takes us into our part 3 here to wrap things up, which is an actual division in the story, because it jumps to the end of the concert. And she's talking about, Entresol is such a beautiful place. And it's become so much more since she's been performing there, right? So that's another impact she's had. But after the performance, she has this little place where she likes to sit in a corner, enjoy a cup of tea, and just watch the dispersed crowd. You have local businesses setting up, just think of like food trucks, right? Setting up outside of a venue. And this is where everyone is gathering and has spaces for them to mingle. And even the kids, because we know kids are pure, are playing together on her stage, which she sets up as this makeshift playground, temporary entertainment zone of a thing. And that's a point where she reflects on her previous frustration, because she can see the change. She sees it, even though it's a difficult process, like Hesh mentioned, that is going to take a long period of time, and it's a small portion of the overall solution. It's working, and this is where she's actually able to see it with her own eyes and get more of that hope back to do this again.
Right. And as far as the getting to like see the kids like playing together, like that's something that a lot of media, like both fantasy and not fantasy, explores a lot, where it's like, kids are pure. Like there's a lot of things in the world that are just learned behaviors. And
Yeah.
like that Seraphine, this is a relatively like adult moment for Seraphine, especially following like the coming right out of her bio. So like that kind of sets the perspective of how much growth that she has had as just a human being at this point of her story, which is a nice touch, especially since a lot of the times when we're covering champions in League of Legends, we don't get to see that, right? we don't get to see like a sense of humanity, which if you've enjoyed our Darkin episodes, let us know. We had fun with those.
Yeah.
But like as far as in this moment, in the biggest venue of Chattanooga right now, she's enjoying like this post show thing, and then something that is very important to her is going to snap her out of this, which is that she is able to start hearing a hum from her hex crystal once again.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that has inspired her the most, as far as to get to this point of trying to be an artist to unify people together, is because she just wanted to hear this song again.
Yeah. Yeah, she's become the crowd, right? After the show. And that's where our story leaves off, right? We have this experience of this endless loop, but ultimately resulting in a positive change. And then we have her recommitting to her goal of continuing to seek out this harmony of this duet between her, the crowd, and then between themselves. And what we want to talk about at the end here is kind of, this is a cool story because it takes if you've ever listened to either podcast by musical artists or interviews of artists at how they feel at like other shows, like going to see other artists and how they feel about their crowds and how their crowds affect their music. This is the concept of having a quote unquote good crowd, right? You've probably seen it in music in TikTok. If you're on TikTok or on social media, you see somebody post a video of like a concert clip and the crowd is like dead or just not really feeding the artist, and it kind of affects the performance. Like the vibe is off. Doesn't really happen in K-pop much. Is one reason K-pop is a experience that people seek out, is because the crowd is giving just as much as the performers are, and it creates an experience that's just extravagant if you've never been to one of those shows. And this takes that, adds in the magical elements, and gives it more depth. And I think that's a great approach to a Seraphine story.
Yeah, and not just like the magical approach, but we also get like the little bit of the political side, for lack of a better term, of the landscape that is the Zaun and Piltover.
Yeah,
because that build up has to happen because these are cities that virtually have been at war with each other for a long time.
Essentially Civil War,
that is like all those little things are kind of amplified in this little excerpt of a story, which is a cool thing to see because you need that little bit of amplification to appreciate Seraphine's place in her own story, because for every other character that we've really followed that have come from Piltover and Zaun, none of them are trying to unify. Like, none of them are trying to bring the people together. Like, even the characters that are trying to make the situation of Piltover and Zahn more tolerable, they're just trying to make it easier to swallow, right? Like, Vi is just trying to, get Powder back, or like that's all that she's trying to do. And Caitlyn is just trying to maintain order. She's not trying to make life better for the Zahnites. She's just trying to maintain order.
Yeah.
And then like characters like Echo and Zeri, they're just trying to survive because Zahn is kind of messed up. And then you've got some of the other characters that have just kind of evil intentions behind that. You have to appreciate Seraphine's position in what she is trying to do. And this is a very easy to swallow story that really kind of sets that stage, sets her stage as far as what she is trying to do. But another cool thing with this, as far as with the story, if you do want to go and read it, even if you don't want to read it, I would suggest opening it up to see the cover art for the story, because it gives another perspective of the Entresol, which is a nice thing to see, because I think like the only other time that we really get a good look at the Entresol is Arcane, and this is years after Arcane.
Yes.
Like, so I don't even know if Seraphine was born yet in the time frame of Arcane, right? So this gives another look of the Entresol that isn't being absolutely bombarded by Powder. So this it's a nice thing to see, but it's a nice story. It's a cute one. I wouldn't necessarily say like it's fun, but it's cute, and it is important as far as setting up what Seraphine is and helping you really understand it.
Well put, as always. And with that, we'll leave it there. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Yeah, take care, everybody.